Bitcoiners United back again today. I want to read the Cypherpunk's manifesto, a Cypherpunk's manifesto, which I have here. Got a copy, a printout. It's available online. Let me bring up my screen to nakamotoinstitute.org. It's a library where you can get a lot of documents. You can go to the entire library. You got Bitcoin's white paper right up front, a whole lot of other academic papers. I'm going to read a Cypherpunk's manifesto today, written by Eric Hughes, March 9th, 1993. Eric Hughes is one of the original cypherpunks, a computer scientist, one of the original members of the cypherpunk movement. It's a loosely knit group of individuals interested in cryptography, privacy, digital rights. He holds a PhD in mathematics from the University of California in Berkeley. His academic background in mathematics and computer science provided him with the technical expertise to engage in discussions surrounding cryptography and digital privacy. He's perhaps most well known for writing the Cypherpunk Manifesto in 1993. This is a seminal document that outlines the principles and goals of the cypherpunk movement. He coined the motto, "Cypherpunks Write Code." He hosted the first anonymous remailer. This was a privacy-focused server that received messages with embedded instructions on where to send them next, and the remailer would forward them, obscuring their origin. Hughes used the example of the Clipper chip. Some of you may not ever have heard of that or remember that, but the Clipper chip example to him was a confirmation of successfully pushing back against state governance and surveillance, in which widespread opposition to the chip in society. It resulted in the planned rollout of the Clipper chip. It was halted, at least overtly. Now, what I'll say on that is that when you have one of these devices that you carry around every day, all day, that is your surveillance device. So a lot has changed in the world as far as the capabilities of surveillance in our life. The Clipper chip was a chipset that was developed and promoted by the NSA as an encryption device, and it was for your security. It was going to be put into the hardware, like right on the motherboard of the chipset of phones, of computers. And just as a matter of course, if you bought a hardware device, you would have the Clipper chip on it, and it would surveil. It could listen. It could do heuristics and listen and find out, what was being communicated. It was developed and promoted by the NSA as an encryption device that, quote unquote, secured voice and data messages in all devices, but it had a built-in backdoor, and so that all communications could be intercepted and listened to. It was intended to allow federal, state, local law enforcement officials the ability to intercept and decode voice and data transmissions. So this was security for the state, not for we the people. And it was intended to be adopted by telecommunications companies for voice transmission. You can kind of imagine where it would have gone today if allowed to have occurred. That said, we have devices with us that have in code the ability to do all that and more, of course, the data collection. So while that was introduced in 1993, because of opposition, it was entirely defunct by 1996. It very likely inspired Eric Hughes to write his white paper on the manifesto here. So as a cypherpunk, Eric Hughes contributed to discussions on cryptographic protocols and the potential implications of encryption for society. He advocated for the widespread use of strong encryption to protect personal privacy and secure digital communications. In the cypherpunk community, he engaged in discussions on mailing lists, online forums, and in-person meetings. And the cypherpunk movement fostered a culture of collaboration and knowledge sharing and experimentation among like-minded individuals. We're going to get into his early quick point on privacy versus secrecy as we open up the Cypherpunk's manifesto here. So let me just start into a Cypherpunk's manifesto. I'm going to read it, and as I go, I'll have my own comments, and not to interrupt too much, but a lot of this brings me to thoughts that I have about what he writes here. So let's get started with a Cypherpunk's manifesto. Privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age. Privacy is not secrecy. A private matter is something one doesn't want the whole world to know, but a secret matter is something one doesn't want anyone to know. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. So let me just stop right there with my own comment here. So I think this is important. The whole idea that like, well, I have nothing to hide, or, well, don't be criminal. Don't do anything criminal. If you're not a criminal, what do you have to hide? Oh, and so we're not talking about being criminal. I'm not saying that people wanting privacy or a semblance of security in aspects of their lives are criminals or should be criminalized. We're talking about the basic need to be allowed to, say, have a house and have windows on your house. When you have a house, you want windows for many reasons. Primarily, you want to be able to look out. Secondarily, yes, people can look in. That can be functional, handy as well. But when you have windows in your house, you're going to typically, you're going to have curtains, you're going to have blinds. You have that natural presumptive right that you have windows, and at times you're going to close your blinds, you're going to close the curtains, because yes, when you want to look out, you want to look out. This is your house, this is your property. But if you're having dinner, if you're having friends over for games, cards, whatnot, you don't necessarily want that on display on stage for everyone to see. So you might close the blinds. These are like presumptive rights we expect. And when it comes to digital frontiers, we don't always, we might presume to have that, and we don't. So you get to choose when people can look into your house. I'm going to refer to the Declaration of Independence here, written July 4th, 1776. Our Declaration of Independence in America states, quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it." I'm also going to read the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, because as a legal matter, of course, the foundations of much of our law and so much of our legal law stems from the Fourth Amendment, which is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So that provides us rights to basic presumptive privacy, and if that needs to be looked into for reasons through due process, that can occur. So let me get back to the Cypherpunk's manifesto. If two parties have some dealings, let me scroll down here. I'm rolling live here. If two parties have some sort of dealings, then each has a memory of their interaction. Each party can speak about their own memory of this. How could anyone prevent it? One could pass laws against it, but the freedom of speech, even more than privacy, is fundamental to an open society. We seek not to restrict any speech at all. If many parties speak together in the same forum, each can speak to all the others and aggregate together knowledge about individuals and other parties. The power of electronic communications has enabled such group speech, and it will not go away merely because we might want it to. So let me pause again. So we're getting into now what we presume to have with the First Amendment, of the Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, in the internet age, and you imagine the early founding fathers, they speak to their effects, if you will, but they weren't thinking of like the internet per se, or the specifics of how, where we might be going, but the spirit of these laws are there. Benjamin Franklin had shared with Thomas Jefferson a motto which was used elsewhere later. Jefferson wrote about it repeatedly. Quote, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." Let me get back to a Cypherpunk's manifesto. Since we desire privacy, we must ensure that each party to a transaction have knowledge only of that which is directly necessary for that transaction. Since any information can be spoken of, we must ensure that we reveal as little as possible. In most cases, personal identity is not salient. When I purchase a magazine at a store and hand cash to the clerk, there's no need to know who I am. When I ask my electronic mail provider to send and receive messages, my provider need not know to whom I am speaking or what I am saying or what others are saying to me. My provider only need know how to get the message there and how much I owe in fees. When my identity is revealed by the underlying mechanism of the transaction, I have no privacy. I cannot here selectively reveal myself. I must always reveal myself. Pausing for a moment. Imagine if the post office, say, had the technology or the ability to read all mail and do heuristics or have automated processes or AI or who knows what. What if say the post office could just read all of your communications and collect the data, provide the data as needed to those that think they need to know or to others, could filter it based on your communications. And what we see in the world is that, okay, so we don't want bad speech out there. We won't tolerate bad speech. And this is on public forums, we presume. Now, what is that speech? Can you define it for us? Usually these understandings like, well, where do you draw the line? What was the context? What was your intent? Were you being funny? How funny were you? Is this bad humor? Good versus bad comedy? We're getting into the regulation of many things that usually are hashed out in the worst situations, like in court. And what you see online is getting hashed out every day, all day online. Now, what if there was an authority that would make these determinations and say, we won't tolerate this category? Okay, all the things, the context, the comedy, whatever. Well, when do I know if I've crossed the line? I guess you'll find out. Sort of the idea. You won't know it till we see it and let you know. So, all right, back to the manifesto here. Let me bring it down. Therefore, privacy in an open society requires anonymous transaction systems. Until now, cash has been the primary such system. An anonymous transaction system is not a secret transaction system. An anonymous system empowers individuals to reveal their identity when desired and only when desired. This is the essence of privacy. Privacy in an open society also requires cryptography. If I say something, I want it heard only by those for whom I intended it. If the content of my speech is available to the world, I have no privacy. To encrypt is to indicate the desire for privacy, and to encrypt with weak cryptography is to indicate not too much desire for privacy. Furthermore, to reveal one's identity with assurance when the default is anonymity requires the cryptographic signature. We cannot expect governments, corporations, or other large faceless organizations to grant us privacy out of their beneficence. It is to their advantage to speak of us, and we should expect that they will speak. To try to prevent their speech is to fight against the realities of information. Information does not just want to be free, it longs to be free. Information expands to fill the available storage space. Information is rumor's younger, stronger cousin. Information is fleeter of foot, it has more eyes, knows more, and understands less than rumor. We must defend our own privacy if we expect to have any. quick pause there. Many rights that we presume to have as like inherent, naturally born given rights, existing by pure nature or through existence, with technology or, failed use of governance, those what we presume to be inherent rights can be turned into, at the discretion of those in charge. Now, where you normally mostly see this, when you have your phone, you got your devices, you're on a computer, you're using software or agreeing to end user license agreements that you're not reading, but that tell you that we're going to collect your data, we're going to use that data, we're going to protect your privacy. And we've seen how that's worked, and whether they intend to keep it private and then get hacked, or it gets stolen, or it gets lost, or they change their mind later, all the things. Yes, you're beholden to their agreeableness on that, and their interest in you. Now, there's that funny saying is that if you can't tell where the yield is coming from, you are the yield. If you don't know how you're getting this service for free or what the product is, you are the product. So anyway, data collection is huge, folks. It's bigger than oil. So anyway, we every day we just sort of give up various rights with permission, whether we're aware of that or not, and our privacy is let go for the sake of convenience and for reasons. That said, that doesn't mean that, well, you got nothing to hide. What do you have to hide? If you're not doing anything criminal, what's wrong? You still have that right. You want to sometimes lock your door, close your blinds, close the curtains, turn off the lights. You have that right on your property, and your being and your thinking and your writings. You have the right to be private in your personal affairs. It brings me to the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution. 10th Amendment says, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. It's sort of like when you go down the list of constitutional amendments, and it kind of limits government powers on human fundamental rights, and it's telling government, you can't do this, you can't do that, people have these rights, people have that right. And the 9th Amendment is like, well, if we forgot anything, that goes to the states. And number 10 is like, if we forgot anything else, if there was any question, hello, it remains with the people. It's limiting the powers of government repeatedly. The 10th Amendment, however, is largely a footnote in history, in modern law, largely ignored. Commerce Clause, whatever else is like, no, we regulate everything. 10th Amendment does not apply. Let me continue with this Cypherpunk's manifesto. Let me scroll down to where we are. Here we are. We must defend our own privacy if we expect to have any. We must come together and create systems which allow anonymous transactions to take place. People have been defending their own privacy for centuries with whispers, darkness, envelopes, closed doors, secret handshakes, and couriers. These technologies of the past did not allow for strong privacy, but electronic technologies do. We, the cypherpunks, are dedicated to building anonymous systems. We are defending our privacy with cryptography, with anonymous mail forwarding systems, with digital signatures, and with electronic money. Cypherpunks write code. We know that someone has to write software to defend privacy. And since we can't get privacy unless we all do, we're going to write it. We publish our code so that our fellow cypherpunks may practice and play with it. Our code is free for all to use worldwide. We don't much care if you don't approve of the software we write. We know that software can't be destroyed and that a widely dispersed system cannot be shut down. My quick comment on that. And we've seen repeatedly how whether it's politicians or justice systems or for the sake of safety, and we see it in other countries, we see it in the States, but governments can often disagree with this point. They will try to stop it. They will reinterpret it as well, but technically. And like the Samurai case comes to mind just currently, but there's a wide variety of damage over the years of coders who wrote code. And even in the early years of simply PGP, pretty good privacy software code out there that the NSA and governments were like, hey, you can't do that. You can't have that tool. You shouldn't have that encryption. The government itself fought pretty good privacy back in the day. Just basic encryption for basic communications, plain text little stuff, encrypted through open source software code that was freely available. Adam Beck printed that code on a t-shirt. The government had said that code is criminal. Can't use it. Okay, so what? I can't write down words. I can't print this on my shirt. You going to arrest me for a quote, for code that actually is a tool for freedom? You're going to criminalize that? You're going to criminalize people that want to use it? You're going to criminalize people that read it? You're going to criminalize the idea? We're criminalizing the idea, folks. And these are ideas that are based in fundamental human freedoms and liberty. The threat to the state was the fact that you could do stuff in private, and we don't like that. That was the point. All right. My little soapbox is here. Appreciate your patience with that. But I'm sharing my own thoughts. Okay, back to the manifesto. Cypherpunks deplore regulations on cryptography, for encryption is fundamentally a private act. I didn't bring it to stage. Here we go. The act of encryption, in fact, removes information from the public realm. Even laws against cryptography reach only so far as a nation's border and the arm of its violence. Cryptography will ineluctably spread over the whole globe, and with it the anonymous transaction systems that make this possible. For privacy to be widespread, it must be part of a social contract. People must come together and deploy these systems for the common good. Privacy only extends so far as the cooperation of one's fellows in society. We, the cypherpunks, seek your questions and your concerns and hope we may engage you so that we do not deceive ourselves. We will not, however, be moved out of our course because some may disagree with our goals. The cypherpunks are actively engaged in making the networks safer for privacy. Let us proceed together apace. Onward. Written by Eric Hughes, March 9th, 1993. Eric Hughes, I just want to say thank you. That's the point of this video today. I know you are experiencing, celebrating, enjoying your own privacy these days as you deserve, but your Cypherpunks Manifesto was such prescient work, continues to be a foundational text, inspired many, many coders over the years, many tools, inspired Satoshi Nakamoto himself. We wouldn't have a lot of what we have today without a Cypherpunks Manifesto. Free and open source software, the ethos, the ethics of why we write code, why cypherpunks write code, why we build these tools in the first place. And it's not just because it's fun and technical and interesting. It is of dire importance. Privacy in electronic age being of dire importance. And you just imagine, like what I mentioned, where would we be today if there hadn't been an early pushback on technologies such as the Clipper chip or certain software identifiers that like Intel wanted to put into computers, that Microsoft wants to put into software, simply to make your user experience better, or simply to keep everyone safer, or simply to, like, when truly bad things happen, as they do, as evil people exist in the world and do evil things as they are, it's part of a human condition that we have to manage and have to deal with. You can't say, well, nope, all of this stuff categorically is bad, and we go down the path of darkness. So the principles that you wrote in a Cypherpunks Manifestos have influenced the development of so many other technologies, our decentralized networks, our privacy tools, and it brings us to Bitcoin. We have Bitcoin utilizing cryptography to one, to protect the network, and also to help defend people's privacy to the extent that they want to. And with the right work, you can. Your advocacy, Eric, for individual privacy and the use of cryptography to protect our personal freedoms are increasingly relevant today in an era of increasing digital surveillance and data collection. So this is my homage to Eric Hughes. A Cypherpunk's Manifesto reminds us of some of the why we do all this. It's not just cool, number go up, right? No, it's not just having better money. It's about why is that better money? It's not purely economic. It's also human rights, human dignity, human property, freedom. So thank you for joining me today and listening to me read a Cypherpunk's Manifesto. Bye, everybody.